My background as we get started, I have about 10 years experience consulting in the pharmaceutical supply chain space, working with large pharmaceuticals down to small clinic sites and other areas, trying to work with those customers to help integrate and improve their supply chain. Our webinar today will run about 45 minutes, where we'll do a brief overview of the InTemp product line, including our mobile application and our cloud, and we'll do a very long live demo on using our tools and specifically how those tools can help you better utilize your data, whether you're a small clinic site monitoring temperature in your refrigerators, or whether you're a larger pharmaceutical manufacturer or logistics company who needs to use that data to work with regulatory agencies or for your own internal improvements. Just a quick note as we're going forward, I strongly encourage everybody to ask questions during this presentation. We have a questions function in InTempConnect that allows you to send those to me. I will do my best to answer those as we go forth in the actual presentation, and anything I can't get to in the presentation, I'll do my best to answer at the end. We have some time set aside there. Thank you again for joining us today, and we'll jump right into it. Today we're talking about the InTemp Cold Chain Monitoring Solution presented by Onset Computer Corp. And what that encompasses from our organization is a number of things. First and foremost, they incorporate our two hardware products, temperature loggers for the supply chain, our CX500 line, which are transit temperature loggers, and our CX400 line, which are temperature loggers designed for refrigerators, freezers, walk-in coolers, and warehouse monitoring. We'll briefly touch on those products, and then we'll dive into the core of our solution, which is the InTemp mobile application and the InTempConnect cloud database and analytics tool. When talking about our supply chain solution, we really look at this as a first to last mile by design solution. And what that means for our customer base and for the people who are using our product is that this is designed to be used from pharmaceutical manufacturing all the way through the end part of the supply chain, whether that's through distribution, whether it's through a clinical trials or logistics management side of this, whether it's being monitoring in hospitals and clinics, or specifically through programs like the Vaccines for Children program that's run here in the United States through the CDC. Our loggers are really designed to make our customer base have an easy-to-use product and at the same time be compliant in each of those spaces, whether that's through good distribution practices on the pharmaceutical supply chain or compliant to programs like the CDC Vaccine for Children's program, which has specific call-outs and designations for their loggers. First, we're going to talk about a little bit about our CX400 series data logger. And as we go into this, one of the things that I want to note is all of our loggers, unlike traditional loggers, are Bluetooth 4 enabled temperature loggers, meaning that you connect and control those loggers with a mobile application run on an Android or iOS phone. This deviates a little bit from the traditional USB logger model where you have to take a logger, plug it into your computer, and then offload the data or configure it in the same way. The value of this, however, is that in utilizing new technology, you're able to gain considerable more value from these products, both in operational efficiency as well as in the functionality of what the logger set can do themselves. So to talk a little bit about the 400 loggers, one of the nice things about the loggers themselves is that they're long life. They're battery replaceable units. They can be purchased, recalibrated, and run for a long time. They're built with Onset's quality manufacturing process, and given our background, these things are designed to be robust and withstand a long deployment in many different applications. These devices have large LCDs with feedback icons, so if you're monitoring whether it's a refrigerator, a walk-in freezer, or a warehouse, you can clearly see the information on the LCD screens. You can clearly see alarms, battery level, connectivity of Bluetooth, whether there have been probe disconnects. All of the information you need to see from these loggers is clearly visible on those screens and makes it very easy for our end user base to use. One of the nice and standout features of our loggers comparative to other ones in the market is that we have audible and visual alarms. And that not only can you see a red LED blinking when there's an alarm and see an icon on the LCD screen, but you can also enable an audible alarm. So in clinical sites, hospitals, or other areas, you have that audible alert to know that something's wrong and that you need to take action. Something that we found is very valuable to our nursing staff, clinic operators, people who don't have time to necessarily always look for those things, but get that quick feedback from an audible alarm. As I mentioned earlier, these loggers use wireless data collection, and we say that they are configured, started, and downloaded all using a mobile application. And where that really comes into value is that you don't have to remove these things once they're installed. So whether if you're running cable into a refrigerator, whether you're putting these in a warehousing location, you're putting them in a room, they're very easy to download from a mobile application without having to take all that down, plug it into a computer, and reinstall it. Not only does that give you continuity in your data logging, but it also gives you saves you time and saves you the issues of having to go through and manage all of that on a regular basis. We have logger models designed specifically for the GDP supply space, which means for our probed loggers, both the body of the logger, which has an internal temperature sensor, and the probe temperature sensor, are NIST calibrated. And of course, we have loggers that are specifically designed for the VFC specifications, which incorporate NIST calibration on the probe, daily alarm checks enabled within the loggers, as well as having an accuracy range that corresponds with the CDC guidebook and handbook for monitoring temperature. And finally, as I mentioned before, all of these loggers do come NIST calibrated. So whether you're working at compliancy for a pharmaceutical space or within a CDC or vaccine space, you're meeting regulatory requirements, and you can ensure that the information that you're gathering from these loggers come back with a high level of accuracy. Taking a turn to our second product line, the CX500, these loggers are designed specifically for transport, whether it's in the pharmaceutical supply chain, transporting products within facilities from one place to another, or other areas where you need to ensure temperature monitoring while products are actually moving. With this product, we offer both single-use and multiple-use loggers. Our CX501 and CX502 are single-use loggers that will record for 15 days or 90 days, and our CX503 will record data for up to 1 year and can be launched multiple times. All of these loggers come 3-point NIST calibrated to comply with global GDP regulations. And unlike our CX400, they don't have an LCD screen, but we do have LED alarm and status indicators that allow you to visualize whether the loggers are currently in operation and whether or not there's an alarm and you need to take additional steps to identify what's wrong. Finally, these loggers do come in a very low profile. They're roughly a ½ an inch thick, and they weigh 25 grams. So when you're including these in anything from a clinical shipment to a large pallet shipper, they take up very little space, and they're very easy to integrate without getting in the way of putting in your other pack out information, whether you're putting in cooling packs, you're putting in a product. They're designed to be small and not take up additional space. Unfortunately, loggers no longer are just useful by themselves. They have specific value in monitoring temperature, but you can't really do much unless you can take that data and actually use it in an acceptable way. So, when we look at data collection and management, we look at our two other products, the InTemp mobile app, which allows you to control, manage, and download these loggers, and the InTempConnect cloud database and analytics tool. These solutions really provide you a number of valuable tools to help manage your site, whether it's a clinical site monitoring temperature for standalone refrigerators or walk-in coolers, all the way through large, robust, and complicated supply chains where you're shipping products from point A to point B to point C and have to ensure that not only the products arrive in temperature, but there's no adverse effect to the product or to the end users who are taking that. And we find this, to be a very, very hard problem to manage throughout the world. And with our solution set, we believe that it makes a much, much more fluid operation for our customers and makes it easier for them to be compliant within the global GDP space. So some of our solution highlights. As I mentioned earlier, quick download of data with your smartphone or tablet. With Bluetooth 4 enabled products, you can quickly connect to a logger, download that information, and of course automatically sync it to our cloud account in a matter of seconds. Instead of having to find loggers, plug them into a PC, open boxes, take those files, email them, and then have those files automatically be downloaded to a database somewhere else. We really designed this to be a quick and efficient process to make sure data is given to the people who need it when it matters. In addition to that, given that you can work with these products via Bluetooth, you can actually view real-time temperatures for products within walk-in freezers, within packages, in real time. So for instance, if you're a logistics carrier monitoring temperature, you can identify issues within packages before problems actually happen, so you can take proactive action. This is one of the key highlights and features of the Bluetooth product line, specifically for our CX500 loggers, and it really does set them apart from a lot of the competitive USB units, which are truly reactive technology. You don't know something's wrong until you've taken them out of the box, looked at an LCD, or downloaded them. In addition, with our InTempConnect cloud platform, we have pieces in place that when there are loggers that are downloaded with alarms or with issues, we can send out automated alerts to the key individuals who need to get that information to take action. Whether that's downloading a CX400 logger that's on a clinic fridge, or whether that's downloading a CX500 logger that's gotten to an end distribution point, that information can quickly upload to our cloud management and alert people when those product issues are happening. On top of that, the cloud solution also gives you the ability to manage and give the appropriate rights to the users who need it. So our cloud database is built in what we call selective access, meaning that an administrator can give different rights and privileges to different people in your organization. If you're in a VFC or clinical space, that means a clinic manager can give people who work for the site the ability to use the mobile application to download loggers, but perhaps not use the cloud information because they want that to be managed themselves. At the same time, in a clinical distribution space or in a manufacturing space, we could have quality individuals manage the data from a cloud standpoint while giving operation workers the ability to configure loggers and manage that from the dock floor, giving you complete flexibility to give the people who need rights and access exactly the access they need. On top of that, and this is another key feature of ours, all of these loggers are configured and managed from the mobile application of the phone. All of those temperature profiles can be managed from the cloud account. So whether you're creating temperature profiles based on a specific product, based on a specific storage profile, for instance, a freezer profile, a refrigerator profile, or ambient or controlled room temperature profile, all of that can be managed from the cloud with selective access. So you give control to your quality team to put in the correct specifications, while giving your team on the floor the ability to pick the correct profiles that they need to use within the supply chain. Additionally, within our cloud database, because of some of the tagging and tools we have to identify what loggers were and where they were going, we have the ability to execute meaningful searches. And on top of that, take those meaningful searches and create meaningful reports that give you value from your data. It's not just useful anymore to have information and be reactive on it. We see many of our customers within the pharmaceutical supply chain using these reports to drive efficiencies, to drive down packaging costs, to understand where there are issues in their supply chain, and take those KPIs and really improve their business. And these are all things that the InTemp and InTempConnect solution allow you to do. So what we're going to do here is talk a little bit about some of the key features of the InTemp mobile app. We'll then jump into the InTempConnect cloud, and that should take us through about the 20-minute mark, and then we'll jump right into the live demo. I have had a few questions come in, so I want to answer at least one of those before they go. So the first question is, we have customers who are using VFC loggers that are going to a drive and then pushing the information to the cloud. What I would suggest the customer who asked that to do is contact us. They're using our mobile application in something we call standalone mode right now. And what we can do is talk them through how to set up an InTempConnect created mobile application after the fact. Diving into that, let's actually talk a little bit about what that means. So our InTemp mobile application is a mobile application that was designed for both iOS, so Apple products, and Android devices, and is a fully free mobile app, meaning that it's downloadable on the Apple iTunes Store or the Google Play Store at no cost to our customer base. And this app has what we call dual functionality. The first mode, and I referenced this a minute ago, is standalone mode, meaning that users who want to use our CX400 or CX500 loggers can connect to it using the app. They can create configurations and profiles in the app and use everything just within their mobile application without cloud connectivity. There's value to that for smaller sites who don't need to manage their data in a bigger way, who don't need some of the reporting tools, and it's a one-to-one user management. For those customers who are working with multiple users on a site, multiple sites, multiple refrigerators, multiple loggers within the supply chain, we recommend our cloud connected or InTempConnect mode, meaning that the user privileges are set up within our cloud and then are sunk down to the mobile application. As I mentioned, and I'll go through in our demo, the InTemp app allows for easy logger configuration. And when I say easy, I mean you can identify a logger on our home screen, connect to it, and configure it in under 30 seconds, as well as an easy download, meaning you can identify a logger on our home screen, connect to it, and download it in under 30 seconds, making things very easy and efficient for users of this product to get their data quickly. As I mentioned, the InTemp app, when used with InTempConnect, have cloud NAP auto-synchronization, meaning that when a logger is downloaded to our mobile application, it automatically will sync up to the cloud. And when user privileges or configuration profiles are managed or changed in the cloud, they're automatically pushed back down to the mobile application. So they work as a seamless extension of each other and really help integrate the solution. Within the mobile application, not only can you push data to the cloud, but you can also create PDF and XLS reports. You can see a small example of one on the screen right now, but the reports include the username who launched it, the start dates, whether there were any alarms, a graph of what actually happened within the data, as well as different features, for instance, summary data. They show a list of all the loggers who were connected. They can show a list of all the information that's happened, as well as a full list of every single data point that's recorded. And on top of this, for our customers who are working in the GDP space, this is a completely validated 21 CFR Part 11 enabled system, meaning that when used within the guidelines of 21 CFR Part 11, it's completely compliant from a data integrity standpoint. From the InTempConnect Cloud Database standpoint, again, this is a free, easy, secure cloud database. When I say free, I mean apps. I mean for managing your data and storing information, it is completely free. You can go to InTempConnect.com, create an account, and start using this immediately with your loggers. As I mentioned earlier, you do have the ability to create selective access among your users and manage that from the cloud through your mobile devices. So it means you're giving the right people the right access when they need it, and it's very easy to manage by yourselves. What sets us apart from other cloud databases and other databases that are used in either the good distribution side within the pharmaceutical supply chain or with people who are monitoring temperature, whether it's a Wi-Fi logger or other things, is that our cloud database was actually designed for users to manage it. You don't need program management. You don't need somebody who has to go and set this up for you. It was designed by our engineers to be easy to use, intuitive, and very straightforward for people to actually deploy this. And that means less of your time is spent on the cloud, less cost is incurred when trying to manage this. You don't have to pay for the databasing services, and it really does help optimize the supply chain. On top of that, we do have customizable alarm notifications, so when loggers are downloaded, those can automatically be sent out via SMS or email to different users, and that really does help alert people when there are issues and help them take action. Everybody on this call who's worked with pharmaceutical products knows the value of that product. we're working with products that are extremely high value to, in the clinical space, actually invaluable, where losses can have massive impacts on trials. These customizable alarm notifications really do help you reduce risk in your supply chain, whether you're at a clinic site, a hospital, or within the transit supply chain. Now, we come to the last point, which is really one of our key features. We do have advanced search and analytics and reporting, and part of this fully validated 21 CFR Part 11 system, meaning that when you launch loggers, you can tag them with the information you need to and then search on that later. The one asterisk for this, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, is that while our database storage, alert notification, and management side of this is free, we do have a small reporting fee for some of the options we offer on the back end of our service. So, at this point, we've been in for a couple minutes, and I'm about to really jump into the some of the settings and roles. But before I do that, are there any questions about that before we move forward, about some of the things we've talked about? I haven't seen any new questions come through, so I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about some of the key features of InTempConnect. The first one are our setting features. And when we break up InTempConnect, we really have two sides. We have settings and management as well as the data side. From our settings standpoint, I've talked a lot about the roles and privileges and the selective user access. We also have the ability to manage our configuration profiles in the cloud, which give you the ability to take our preset configurations or manage the specific configurations that you need for your supply chain or storage. We have fields called trip information, and this is one of my favorite features within our cloud site. You have the ability with trip information to add specific tags that need to be filled out when you launch data, whether that's refrigerator ID, whether that's product ID, whether that's origin, destination, carrier if you're working in the supply chain space. These trip information fields really allow you to identify what that temperature data was, and then when working and trying to manage that data later, understand what's happening and allows you to look at trends, KPIs, and identify where there are problems and where you can make improvements to your supply chain. And finally, the alarm notifications, which are just such a strong feature within our InTempConnect database, which really allows automated emails and SMS alerts when there are issues within the supply chain. Within the data and devices side, we have advanced search fields, and that really allows you to search for your data based on a number of things, whether it's the roles or the user who launched the logger, the trip information, whether there were alarms by serial number. It really gives you the ability to search for that information, and we've built in some nice features that allow you to save those searches. So if you're doing similar searches week to week to week, it cuts down the amount of time that you're working with those within your database. And then we do have the report builder and report extract tool that allows you to take multiple loggers, groups of loggers, and then run analytics reports on that. So that gives you the ability to see anything from multigraphs to alarm summary reports to combined summary statistic reports. It really does add a lot of value to what you're doing within your supply chain. So, at this point in time, I'm going to go away from the presentation, and I'm really going to get into the live demo of this because I think that's where a lot of the value is here. I can talk about slides all the time, but really seeing how this database is set up and how easy it is to use, I think should be valuable to the group on this. So, if you'll bear with me for 1 second, you'll see me pop up the InTempConnect site, and I'm also going to pick up a screenshot of my phone so I can show you some of the mobile applications that go through there. So, we're going to start in InTempConnect, which is the cloud side of the database. And you'll note you can get there by opening your web browser and going to www.intempconnect.com. And you'll note that's a pretty basic login screen. It prompts you to put a username, a password, and it gives you the ability to create a user or an account. So, creating users and accounts are pretty straightforward. You're asked to put in an account name, whether that's your clinic site, your hospital, your distribution site, or whether it's your organization, if you're a clinical trials organization or a pharmaceutical manufacturer. Put in your first name, last name, your email address, which will act as your username going forward, and then your passwords. You have to check off your quick terms of use, and you can then create your account. A few notes to go through here. I highly encourage people to take some thought and time when they're setting up this account. Once an account is created, it cannot be merged with another account, and you can't change the name of the account. And both of those have to do with some of the 21 CFR Part 11 compliances around data integrity. The other thing to note is that you should remember what you're using for an email address for this, but if you don't, you can resend your activation email down here at the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to log into the InTempConnect account that I've previously created for this demo. So the first thing you'll note is that when I log in with my username, it allows me to select an account. And this means if you are a user in multiple accounts, you can actually log into different accounts with the same name. So we're going to use our Onset Pharma Test account, which is our demo account that we use out in the field. And I'm going to go quickly into our settings field to go through some of the points, the finer points of setting up the database. The first thing you'll notice is the Profile tab, and this gives you your information on your username and your profile. You'll note that you'll see here that our account name is the Onset Pharma Test account. You'll see my new username and email. Feel free to use that to email me with questions afterwards, by the way. And of course, you'll see my first, last name, and your default system units. In this, I'm using Celsius. You can absolutely take Fahrenheit. And one of the nice parts of this system is if you're working with part of your organization in the United States and part in Europe, each individual user can set up their own system default. So if you're in Europe and you're using Celsius, or in the US and using Fahrenheit, you can use the same account and manage your data in both ways. Where we really get into some of the great features and functionalities here is this tab that we call Roles. And this really gets into the selective access and user management of the account. And if you allow me to scroll down, you'll see that as I set up this account, I'm actually the administrator of this account, meaning that I have full rights and access to everything and all the features within this account. Now, one of the nice features is if I decide to leave the organization, or if I'm no longer want to be an admin, I can actually remove myself from an admin account as long as there's one other person, a minimum of one person who's the administrator in that account. From this point on, the functionalities and privileges and the different roles that can be created are completely customizable to the individuals that you want to work. So, for instance, say we have, and I'll look down here, a clinical site manager. We've set up this account where the clinical site manager has all of the available privileges within the mobile application, but we didn't give them access to the cloud report because that might be managed by a central administrator. At the same time, we've set up a clinical program manager account where those users only have access to the cloud, but because they're not managing monitors every day, we're not giving them access or privilege to the cloud account. These are completely set up a la carte. You can identify which privileges are set up by the cloud by this little cloud bubble, and of course with mobile application by this little mobile device. When setting these up, it's very easy to set up. You click Add a New Role. You can name it. So for instance, I'll use this as a webinar role. And then it's very easy and intuitive to drag and drop the functionality that you want into the privileges. So for instance, we might want a user to be able to log into the cloud, manage alarm notifications, and manage users and roles. We might not want them to have any other application, so we can leave it at that. And then once you set up this role, you can look through your list of available users and assign those users to those roles. So for instance, I'm giving Adam Green, our Business Development Manager, an assigned role here, as well as Jamie Pierce, our Vice President of Marketing. They're going to get a webinar role here. And next time they log into the account, they'll have those specific users and privileges. At the same time, if we decide that a role is no longer needed, for instance, we have a hospital admin role that we've decided isn't needed, we can actually go in and delete that role. Now, when we click delete, it'll give us a prompt, and we'll quickly see that we can't delete that role when there are people in it. So if we want to go down to the hospital admin, remove the assigned user there, save that. When we go down to delete it now, the role is gone, and it's very easy to manage that. And there are a number of prompts that help you and remind you as you go through this process. At the same time, not only do you need to manage roles, but you need to manage your user sets. So when we're looking at users, it's very straightforward. To add a user, you click Add User, we'll type in their name, first email address, first name and last name, and then at the time of setup, you can actually give them the role that you want them. Whether you're making them a clinic site manager, a QA person, whether it's nursing staff, webinar roles, all of this can be done here, managed, and when you send this, it will automatically email that person an activation and give them the appropriate access to the site. So it's very easy to set up users and give them access without a whole prompt of setting up different things. It's automatic, it's set up. And the other nice thing that we can do is if you have somebody who leaves or somebody who you no longer want to have access, it's very simple to go up, click on their user, and then deactivate that user. So Adam Green, who is our business development manager, I've decided I don't want to give him access to this account anymore, so I've disabled him in the account. He's gotten back in my good graces. I've decided to enable him. It's very simple to enable him, and he'll get an alert that says he's been enabled back in the account. So we've gone through that functionality. I've seen another question pop in, so I'm going to take a pause here and answer it. Yes. So I did get a good question. When I log into InTempConnect, I only see the devices in the Report Builder tab. Is this because loggers have not been added yet? And I would say yes. And what I would suggest is if you'd like to contact me after this, I can walk you through a few steps on how to actually how to set this up if there are any more confusion. But I would say the first time that you download to an account, you should be able to see that logger instantaneously. So we'll go to the next tab, which is our Report and Export tab. And this tab is really just a form and function tab that give you the ability to put some default settings in. So when you're exporting data, you're exporting a report, it gives you the ability to set up what you want your standard report to look like. For me, I picked US Eastern Standard Time. You can really pick any time zone that you want to work in. And my file format standard is PDF, but you can also export to Excel if you want to take data out and manipulate it further. We also give users to include something that we call an alarm report that gives detailed reviews, including the min and max temperatures and times of when alarms happened, as well as including tabular data in exports, meaning every single date and time stamp and temperature point. The next feature that I think is actually another really cool feature is configuration and profile management. So when you're launching loggers in the app, and I'll go through this in a quick minute to show you, you have a number of profiles that will be available to launch. All of those are completely managed from the cloud. We offer 7 preset configurations, 4 specifically for the CX400 loggers, and 3 specifically for our CX500 loggers. And those have a number of different pieces that you can easily click on and see. So if we're looking at our preset ambient storage configuration, you'll note that it's a 5-minute logging interval and starts after a fixed delay of 30 minutes. We didn't enable daily checks, which is a functionality I'll talk about in a minute. We do have alarm limits at 15 to 25 degrees Celsius, and those alarms will trigger after 30 minutes of consecutive samples above or below those limits. With this configuration, we've enabled an audible alarm, and you'll note that this configuration was created when I created this account, which happened to be on the 14th of December of last year. Now, for a lot of our customers, we understand that they want to manage their own data. They want to have their own configurations, and those are very easy to manage. By clicking Add Configuration, you can create a configuration name, for instance. You can pick the logger family that you're working with. So for storage, that'll be our CX400, or transport, that'll be our CX500. You select the logger, the logging interval, which goes from 1 second to 18 hours. and the ability to start your logger. Now, for our CX400s, you have the ability to start the logger instantaneously on the next interval. So for instance, if it's a 5-minute interval, it'll start on the next 5-minute segment, 10:05, 10:10, 10:15, and so on. You can start on a push button after an elapsed delay, so for instance, a 30-minute delay, or if you need, you can actually start your loggers on a specific date and time in the future. For our CX500 loggers, there are a few other options. So for instance, we have the option to add on a push button with a delay. So you can push the logger to start it and then have it delay another 30 minutes. When looking at the other configurations, for our 400 loggers, you can set up daily checks, once daily or twice daily, that you can automate through the app. You can enable high and low alarm. So for this one, we'll do a 20-degree alarm, and we'll do a low alarm of 15 degrees C. And we'd want that alarm to trip, say, 20 minutes of consecutive samples out of range. And for the purposes of this demo, I'm actually going to reduce the interval to a 1-second logging. And you'll note quickly that it changes the alarm trigger information here, because you can only trigger alarm information on the interval that you're logging. So we'll trigger this alarm after a minute. Once you do that, you hit save, and not only does this save in the cloud, but this will automatically sync down to my phone and to my cloud account when I log in. Like users, you can absolutely disable or enable or disable or delete all of these different profiles. If they are preset profiles, which you'll note in blue, which come standard with the account, you only have the ability to disable or enable those. If they're custom profiles, you can actually go in and delete those. So for instance, we went in and did a demo, an alarm demo the other day. I don't need this profile anymore, so I'm actually going to delete it. And you'll see it's very easy to delete it. It's no longer in the system. The next thing that I want to show, and I actually think this has additional value as well, is trip information. And this is something that I think is fantastic, whether you're in a clinical space or whether you're in a pharmaceutical supply chain space. This is where you can set up fields to add information when you're launching loggers. And you'll note within here that we have fields that are set up specifically for our 500 loggers, fields that are set up for all of our loggers, or fields that are set up specifically for our CX400 loggers. And this really cuts down time, where if you're launching loggers for your refrigerated storage and then you're launching shipping loggers later, you don't see the same information in both. But what this allows you to do is set information up. So if you're in a clinical site, you can, for instance, put in a clinical protocol number. If you're working with a number of clinics, you can put in a list of those clinic sites. You can put in refrigerator IDs, and you can even enable note fields. So when you're launching a logger, you can leave a note, and there will be a record of that in the system. These are very easy to set up and very straightforward and completely customizable. You can add the field name. For this one, I'll do demo notes. You enable the field, and then you can actually require it within the system. So if you click require, users can't launch loggers without putting information in here. And this is a great way to drive compliance within the supply chain. So if you're designating that your shippers have to put in an origin site or a destination site when they're shipping this logger, this forces them to do that, ensuring that you're getting accurate information within your supply chain, and you're able to later use that information when you're going and managing your data. Again, as I mentioned, you can select 400 or 500 loggers. And then this is really where it gets interesting. You can pick from 3 different types of values that you want to enter. A text field allows you to type in freeform text. A date allows you to put in a date. For instance, if you're working within a refrigerator at a clinic, you could put in the date that the product expires, or the date that needs to be serviced, or the date that something needs to happen. And finally, you can set up lists. And this just makes things easier. So for instance, you're working with a list of origin sites. You can say that this product is being shipped out of Boston, which is where we're near. It's also getting shipped out of Chicago. And it's also being shipped out of London. And all of those will automatically sync down with the mobile phone, and when you're launching these loggers, you'll see them. To look at these, a few examples. One of the things that we have set up, and I can show you the product, we have a list of products that are used commonly in the Vaccine for Children's program. This makes it easier if you're trying to track which products are in which fridge when you launch the loggers. Finally, within the within the settings side, we have alarm notifications, which are very straightforward. You get to pick your degree unit, your time zone, and then you can add your email address or your text message email address. And when loggers download with alarms, you'll get a notification. And I can tell you from experience, the notification from download to inbox, either text message or email, is about 5 to 10 seconds, which is great, so you can take immediate action on that. That encompasses the settings side of this. I'm going to briefly check and see if we have any other questions. And then it looks like we'll answer a few of these afterwards, so I'm going to quickly jump into the next side of this, which is our devices and data side. And before we go into this, I want to actually be able to demo this in real time, so I'm going to pull up an image of my mobile phone, so you can actually see me walk through configuring a logger with some of the things that we've just talked about. So, the first thing you'll see, our InTemp app, is a number of features. You can easily see a list of users who are using a device. So if you're using a tablet that's used across all of your supply chain, all of your users don't have to type their names in each time. You'll note down here that you can create a new user. You can easily go through a process to forget your password. But the key here is this I am an InTempConnect user. By unchecking that, that means you're using the app in standalone mode. And there are a number of features and functions that you can do in there. But for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to log into this app using the same password I logged into the InTempConnect account. And you'll see the same different accounts I'm access to, and you see our mobile application. And you'll note very quickly that here at onset we have a number of loggers operating in the area, and you'll see all of those come into the range of the logger. Across the bottom of the screen, you have a number of different tabs. You have your logger view, your report view that shows you all of the different reports that have previously been downloaded, as well as your settings tab, which gives you an about, for instance, which version you're using. It will link to our user guides and manuals in case you have questions, and there's of course links to online support, contact information, and some of our licensing and policy agreements. It also gives you the ability to view all of the configurations that you see within the cloud. These are all the ones that we've enabled in the settings. You can't edit these, but what you can do is you can sort them. So for instance, the webinar configuration that I just created is listed right here, and I'm sorting it to the top, so when I launch my logger, it's the first configuration I'll see. Additionally, you can manage other things. For instance, you can pick default report settings for your export, PDF or XLS, including table data, looking at different report sharing options, and picking your time zone and units. You'll notice here that I think this is pretty interesting. I set my app up to work in Fahrenheit, so all of my profiles will show up in Fahrenheit, while at the same time in the cloud I'm actually working on a Celsius account. So it shows you how flexible it can be depending on what users are using this. So we'll go through the list of loggers, and what I'd like to do is quickly show you how easy it is to connect to a logger, configure that logger by selecting the configure button, scroll through and see all of the different configuration profiles, select one, add the specific trip information. So for instance, this logger might be from Boston Children's Hospital. We might have a tetanus vaccine in there. It might be an onset refrigerator that we're using. And there aren't any notes in here, but I'm just going to add demo logger. And then you can instantaneously run that. It configures the logger. It's been successful, and I can tell you, you can tell from the screen that the logger is logging. The probe's at 50 degrees, while the ambient temperature in the logger is at 71. And the difference in temperature is because the logger probe is sitting under my nicest cold drink sitting next to me. Additionally, from the app, you can see the details from the configuration. You can perform your daily check, which will show up on the LCD screen in the logger. You can page the logger, and you can actually have an audible page to understand where it is. And then, of course, you can download the logger with a number of options. Download and continue means the logger will continue to work. Download and restart will mean that the logger will download and restart in the last configuration, or you can just download and stop the unit. We're going to download and continue the logger, show you how quickly that happens, clears the alarm, generates a report in the app, runs the statistics, and then gives you the ability to mail it, text it, print it directly to a printer, or take a quick look. And you can see there's not a lot of information and a lot of data in there, but you can see the graph lines, you can see the summary statistics, as well as all of the data on who did what with the logger, and the daily minimum and maximum temperatures of that logger. The nice thing to note when we get past that is when you go into the report tabs, you will actually see the demo training one that I just downloaded here, as well as a little green check mark in the top corner that shows, hey, look, this logger has been downloaded and it is now synced up to the cloud. So, going back to our InTempConnect cloud, if we refresh this page, we'll go down to the bottom and you'll see this demo training logger that I just started is still running and it's automatically and already synced up to the cloud so you have a record. Looking at this quickly, because I know we are running toward the end of this webinar, this is the search features and functionality within the cloud, giving users the ability to search by users or roles that configured the logger. So you can see, show me all the loggers that were configured by an administrator. Show me all the loggers that were configured by a basic user. And that information will sort and search based on who's in there. Additionally, you can search for a specific user. So if I'd like to see all the loggers that I launched, I can click on that and it will refresh and show me all of the username loggers that I've done. Additionally, you can search for loggers with high alarms, where it cuts the list down even further, or with low alarms. And you'll note when you do that, we have some loggers that'll refresh and won't actually be in the bottom anymore. Finally, and this is where I think that trip information becomes very valuable, you can actually search on all of that information. So for instance, if I want to see all the loggers that were configured with Boston Children's Hospital, I can see all of those loggers. Or if we have ones that were done at MGH, which is another local hospital, or a VA clinic, you can see all of those configurations. Not only can you see the ones that have been downloaded and stopped, but also loggers that have been already configured but not yet downloaded. So you have a full holistic view of what's happening within your supply chain. You of course have the ability to search by dates, configured, started, stopped, or last downloaded, over a number of different ranges, as well as searching loggers by their serial number, the device type, or a configuration name that you might have done when you've launched. On top of all of this, you can easily clear out your search functionality, or you can save specific searches. And in the interest of time, I'm going to show you a search that I saved earlier. This was a clinic search that I ran for 400 loggers that I launched over the last 7 days. And you can see here at the bottom that you have a number of loggers, some that were downloaded, some weren't, that were all configured by myself over the last 7 days. And once you have this information, it's not so good that you can just see all the loggers that you've launched. You might want to see a report for those. And from there, we can quickly launch into our Report Builder tab. You'll again see that you have all of the loggers that we've picked. You can actually exclude loggers. So for instance, this clinic one hasn't downloaded. I'm going to exclude the data. And then I can run a report that shows me my tabular data, a multi-graph of the loggers, a summary statistic grouped by clinic site, as well as a summary of all the alarm data in PDF. And from this point on, I can actually click Run the Report. It takes a quick second to generate, and from this point, this exports into what I had picked as a PDF report, and by selecting it, I can see a graph of all of my loggers. I can see all of the logger tabular data, meaning the length of the trip mints, the min, max, mean, standard deviation, and mean kinetic temperature, the trip information associated, as well as a logger name and serial number. From there, you can see a list of all of the alarms that happened. We happen to have 3 high alarms and 1 probe disconnect alarm, meaning that the probe for the CX400 logger became dislodged for 20 seconds yesterday at 4:18. From there, we also have a nice summary statistics tab that breaks up the loggers by site. So for instance, we had 1 logger at the VA hospital. Those were the averages and summaries, 4 at Boston Children's, and 1 at MGH. So if you're working with multiple sites, it gives you the ability to see which sites are doing what. Going back to InTempConnect and quickly closing this up, not only can you look at all of these loggers within groups, you also have the ability to look at the individual loggers and see their statistics. So we'll look at a demo training logger that I launched the other day. You can see here that you have a graph of all of the loggers, the ability to zoom in on that graph. So for instance, say I want to see exactly what happened in this excursion. I can zoom in, see what happened, see when it happened, and try to correlate it with the ambient temperature. See the logger serial number, the name of the logger, that trip information field that we set up before, full deployment statistics, as well as the general settings for that logger. And say this information needs to be shared, saved, put somewhere else, you can always export the individual logger into a PDF or an XLS file. And by running that, you can see the alarm summary report, all of the appropriate information, as well as the deployment statistics, the audit table, and the statistics. This takes us all the way through our InTempConnect cloud platform. And I'm going to talk briefly a little bit about some of the other features here, and then I'm going to open up the last 5 to 10 minutes for those who are interested to ask some more questions. So a few other things about the system. I think that you'll note from this demonstration that this is a powerful cold chain management system. But on top of that, we have also designed this to be easily integratable. We're working with a number of customers that are integrating this platform into their existing ERP system, building management systems, and temperature management systems. So instead of having to operate dual systems, they can really integrate to drive additional value from the system. All of our developments are secure and developed through encrypted APIs, so you can be ensured that the data is secure and doesn't have any issues. And we at Onset are experienced integration partners. We've been doing this for a long period of time, anything from customized reports to those similar to those that I just showed you, to full Onset developed system integration. So whether you want to use this as a standalone or stand-up system, or whether you want to integrate, this system is really designed to help you within your supply chain or temperature management system. Quick conclusion, we have low-cost PLE-enabled technology. We're designed this to be easily set up and easily managed from those users, and I hope that the demo I just gave you showed you how easy it was to navigate those systems. It's a powerful data analytic repository tool, and we have options across the board, whether you're a small user, a small site using a couple of our CX400 loggers, or whether you're a clinical CRO or a pharmaceutical manufacturer that's operating a large, multifaceted supply chain. Our system will really work well for both of those. We at Onset have been a global data logger leader since 1981. If you're not familiar with us, we're an ISO 9001 lean manufacturing organization, and as you can see from our things, we have an extensive in-house engineering department. All of our loggers are designed and manufactured here in the United States, right on Cape Cod, and that helps you ensure that not only are these well-established and well-designed products, but we have a strong quality background, and we can ensure that there are no issues, and we can ensure quality products when they go out to our customers. So at this point in time, I do want to open this up to questions. I know we've run a little bit longer than I would have liked in the demonstration, but I would encourage everybody to type in questions into their field, and I'll start to answer those as we go along. If you have to leave before the end of this, we are recording this presentation, and we will have it available on our website, so you can actually go in and listen to the Q&A session afterwards. So we'll start in right now. The first question, will it alert or alarm remotely to your phone or email? Do you have to download it first? You do have to download it, but we have a number of options within our mobile smartphone to start to automate that, including some gateway technology that will actually be out in the next couple of weeks that you can set up within a clinical site to automatically download information in the event of an excursion. So we have a question, is this a real-time temperature function, as in is it sending information during this, in the supply chain? And the answer is no. Our CX500 loggers do need to be downloaded by either a mobile device or a gateway device. However, the one thing you'll note about our products is that they are cost competitive, if not cheaper, than a standard USB device, meaning that you get more visibility into the package than you would with a USB without paying the exorbitant cost of a real-time device. Many of the real-time devices, for the service fees that they put out there, can range into the hundreds, if not more, dollars for single-use devices, where ours are considerably more cost-effective. So we do have a question that came through, can these monitor relative humidity? The InTemp product line currently doesn't have a relative humidity logger. We expect to have one coming out in the next year or so. If you're interested in working outside of the pharmaceutical supply chain space, for instance, in field trials or in the agricultural space, I highly suggest you look at our Hobo line of products, specifically the MX2300, which is an outdoor-enabled Bluetooth humidity logger. We did have another question come through, how long do the batteries last? Our CX400 loggers, when used under normal circumstances, will last at least a year on AA batteries. Our CX500 loggers all have a shelf life of 1 year. Our single-use loggers will record for either 15 or 90 days, and our multiple-use logger will work for the entire year. Yeah. Another question, how close to the devices do you need to be? So we state all of our Bluetooth loggers have about 100 to 110 foot line of sight reading. If you're looking at loggers that are inside cold rooms or inside packages or in another room, it's a little shorter, but we've done a number of testing protocols with some of the larger packaging companies out there, whether it's a VIP shipper or another type of installation, and we actually have very good read range within packaging or within cold room walls, so you don't actually have to be in there. But it's not as far as, for instance, miles away. All right. The last question, this is a really good one. How long are the calibration for the loggers? It depends on which loggers you're using. Our CX500 loggers and our CX400 loggers that are designated for good distribution practices in the pharmaceutical space have a 1-year calibration life. We do have CX400 loggers designed specifically for the VFC space that come with a 3-year certificate of calibration. With our CX400 loggers, we actually have a preemptive calibration program, meaning that if you'd like to calibrate your loggers with us, we'll send you out a logger right about when your calibration is due. You can install that and use it for the next year. You send yours back to us, and it's a preemptive program, so you never have downtime with our loggers. Our CX500 loggers are good for a year, which is the length of the calibration. We're coming right through the end of the webinar now, so I don't see any more questions coming in. So I'd like to thank the entire group for joining us today. I'd like to thank everybody who asked questions, and I hope that this was an informative webinar. We have recorded this today, and we will be posting it on our website, so if you'd like to share this with colleagues or go back in and look at specific features or functions, you're more than welcome to do that. I appreciate everybody's time. If you have questions, my contact information is up there. Feel free to reach out to me or the onset sales staff. Everybody have a great day. I appreciate your time, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.